Hi YouTube, hi guys, Mikey Beckett here. I haven't made a vlog where I speak for a while, so I'm just going to move around a bit. Haven't made a vlog where I speak for a while, so thought I'd make one. By the way, yeah, I don't shave at the weekends, so yeah, I don't look this scruffy when I go to work, which is on Tuesdays. My working week begins Tuesday, and usually it's a couple or 3 days a week. It doesn't begin till tomorrow, so yeah, on weekends I really do let it go, just in case parents are watching, and yeah. I'm not always this scruffy, honestly. And well, as I said, I'll be in Britain in a couple of weeks' time. Also, just over a couple of weeks, basically. I think. Yeah, just over. I made a video about this before, but it was badly expressed. So I just say it again. Initially, I was, and I still am a bit worried about it because, as I said, wasn't always happy back in Britain near the end, and it's just only judging by the news stories that come out, particularly about disability welfare, attacks upon disabled people, the whole European integration thing falling apart, basically. In fact, I've got to say, I was surprised talking with people in Japan, people, do follow politics, and occasionally do follow British politics, how surprised they were that the mess in Europe is affecting the mess in Britain. Of course it is. It's an economic relation. Why should that surprise people? Most of the British trade is done with Europe, so when Europe collapsed, Britain doesn't have it as bad, perhaps, as initially Spain, Greece, Germany never had it bad, actually, it's got to be said. But France too, yeah, but it got it, and it got the effects of it. And it fundamentally, in my view, made people unkind in Britain. Concern about immigration. I got to say, Britain was. It's not that it doesn't have a race problem. It sort of does, but growing up, I don't recall people really worrying about the skin color of the people next door. Yes, there was casual racism, which isn't no, that's not great, but yeah, it's not. Growing up, National Front, for example, was far less. Still existent, but far less, and there was a far greater stigma. The amount of people I met who back in Britain who quite openly are going for UKIP or the BNP because they just don't. They say, quote, and this is a quote from someone on the street on voting day. We don't trust the mainstream parties. Like it or not, that's the reaction. It's just in the 1980s, if you were voting for the BNP, you kept it quiet. You know what I mean? It wouldn't, in anyone's mind, be unacceptable in the general populace. So yeah, and it's partly what our blog's about. Yeah, I was attacked 3 times, twice in 1 year, 5 times if you include over a 3 year period. Every time I used to walk to the University of Hull, from my house, there would be somebody, could be a child, could be an adult, who would make reference to the fact that I'm disabled in non-flattering terms. Basically, he said, "You fucking scrounger." Every time I used to go to work, this was my daily routine. And I was probably not having it as bad as a. There was no what's called spare room subsidy or bedroom tax. There was no actual welfare cuts at that time. There have been since. Yes, people, there is a cut, by the way. People on disability benefits in Britain at the moment are now going to be earning, for the most part, £27 a week less. That's a cut. The only reason to change the policy is if you're going to cut it. So yeah, and even if I'm obviously not going back to claim benefits because I'm going back in March, but yeah, it's not just worrying for me because one day I may have to return. Hopefully not in the near future, but one day in the future, we'll have to go back to Britain, and I don't think I could actually live there. anymore. I don't think I would physically, if you like, economically and physically be able to live in the country, basically, for my own mental health and for an economic relation. So literally, it's just become fundamentally unkind. And speaking of British people, a lot of people have been talking about this Darren Dart, this guy who disappeared last May, businessman, disappeared overnight. And at the time, apparently, leaving with £40,000 in cash. That to the Americans in the audience, that's what, late 20s for 20 American dollars, maybe early 30s, depending on the exchange rate mechanism. The article appears in the Daily Mail that he's been back since October, he's safe and well, he stopped off at Thailand on the way back, all very suspicious. For example, he apparently got in deep with some Yakuza types, and he was a businessman, but I just don't believe it. But at the same time, I don't think there's necessarily a story there. It's not enough, you see, that he's had a second child on the way. That, he seemed to have panicked over some investments or whatever the truth of the matter. I don't think the truth is necessarily interesting. So there's being the truth, there's having a truth of what happened out there, and there's it being interesting, and those are two different things to me. So I just don't think it will be interesting. We'll be keeping an eye on that, though. So yeah. So I wouldn't want to take this. I'm still feeling rather down. I'm not feeling down about going to Britain. I said it was one of the surprising things, especially from talking with people who follow world politics quite a bit. That of course, Britain is in a bad way. It's not doing well at all. But it's not. But as I said, it's not just about the money. The money's part of it. Not just about the changes to welfare. For example, I know one person with a disability personally. It's not just a news story. He had committed suicide, and in his suicide note, he noted that the government's disability policy had made his life unlivable. Now, suicide is a very complex thing. No one just gets so down over one issue then kills themselves. But there is a thing called a trigger. And for him, the straw that broke the camel's back was this government's policy and all the associated things, which is about mental health as much as anything else. I said literally, the walk to work, I live very close to university, was literally across the street, and just crossing the street, I got abuse. And it just... People actually have to understand this policy and the way the media, especially newspapers like the Daily Mail, talked about it, has a real effect. One that is quite powerful, and one that did land them in a hospital because people just thought my face was to be beaten up. That's what it was for. Now, having said that, I am really looking forward to see my latest nephew, who I have not met yet, Joseph, and of course all my family. And on a personal note, being an academic, as much as in Japan, I've spent time with people at Todai, University of Tokyo, some of the most well-educated people in Japan, and talk philosophy with them, and that's really, really interesting. But occasionally, it would be nice to actually talk about things without having to slow down your English. I speak very quickly, even for someone who's British, actually. But yeah, it would be nice to discuss in my own language for a while. I must confess that. And when I come back in April, I will be a part-time lecturer again. Well, I'm coming back in March. In April, when I come back, I'll be back at work fresh and new. No, this has a rather sort of downbeat ending, but I'm just going to press stop. But honestly, things are fine. I just hadn't said these things out loud for a while. So, see ya. Bye.